Hey, this is Peter from CrunchyGuitar.com, and here today we're going to teach you how to play a very basic blues progression. Why? Because a blues progression is one of the most important things that you can learn if you're learning to play rock guitar, pop guitar, jazz guitar, any kind of guitar, probably with the exception of classical guitar. The blues progression is featured prominently and is the foundation for huge portions of almost all pop, rock, and jazz music, and knowing it will expand your vocabulary and your ability to function as a guitarist and indeed any kind of musician. So understanding how to play a blues progression, to play the chords, which is referred to as comping, and the word comping comes from accompanying, because what you want to do is to be able to play the chords with a band, perhaps behind a soloist or a singer. So what's important here is the structure, and in order for us to really master the structure, we're going to learn to play the blues progression playing three very simple chords. We can go crazy with it later, and I'll teach other videos. I'm posting other videos about how to embellish the blues progression and make it hipper and hipper and hipper, and it can get really, really hairy and really radical. But what's important is to start with the basic structure and get the feel for it. Get the feel for where the chords change and where it turns around and starts all over again, because then you're really understanding a really important unit, a very basic unit of popular music. So I'm going to assume for this lesson that you know how to play guitar a little bit, that perhaps you know several open chords, whatever, something like that, and maybe a couple of bar shapes, a basic E bar shape and an A bar shape. With just that, you can start to learn a blues progression. We should use dominant chords because for blues they sound a little bit hipper and a little more appropriate. If you're playing an A chord, we're trying to leave that middle note out, so we're going to play it like that. It sounds a little funkier because you've got that flat 7 in there. Same with the E chord here. There's your E chord. We get off this note, we remove this note, and we get that flat 7 in there, and that sounds nice too. And then instead of a D chord, we'll play a D7. So we're going to move this finger down to here. So instead of this, we're going to play this. If you're a little bit adventurous, if you know this C7, if you know this C7 grab right here, this, which is a C chord with a flat 7, if you know this chord, a great D7 that sounds really cool is this one. And that's really good for our purposes here because we're going to play an A blues. Later on, it's important to transpose this into other keys because very few people play blues in A except for guitar players, and even guitar players, once they start to get more advanced, they don't play blues in A anymore. It becomes more like B flat. But for the purposes of this lesson, again, we're learning structure. So let's learn the blues progression, which is 12 bars. What's 12 bars? A bar is a subdivision of music. Here's a sample blues progression in F7. I'll show it to the camera, and you can see in this blues progression, this one's in F. We're not going to play it in F, but this one here is in F. You'll see that you've got 12 chord symbols. 4 F7s, then 2 B7s, then 2 F7s, a C7, a B flat 7, an F7, and a C7. That's 12 bars. Each one of those hash marks on guitar music represents, well, for the sake of this lesson, it represents a strum. So if you got 4 beats per measure, and you've got 12 bars, so you've got, 12 times 4, you're going to have 48 strums to get through the whole thing. I'll play it for you once through. I'll play it in the key of A, and you'll see we're going to use those 3 chords only. 1, 2, 3, 4. Third bar. Fourth bar, still on A7, now going to the D7. 2 bars. Back to the A7. Then to the E7. A7, and E7, and again. So anyway, you can see that there's your structure. I just played it through twice, and what you want to do is learn that structure and get it down. Later on, you can go crazy with you can get that later. The most important thing, it doesn't doesn't help to learn that if you haven't internalized the structure to get the feel for it. To the next chord. So you get the point. I played it a little bit hipper with a little bit of a vamp there, but you can learn the vamp later. Important thing is internalize the structure. 4 bars of the first chord, the A7. That's 4 strums times 4 bars. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4. Then 2 bars of the second chord, which is D7. And then back to the 1 chord. And then 1 measure, 4 strokes of the E chord. 4 strokes of the D chord. 4 strokes of the A chord. And 1 measure of the E chord to bring us back around to the beginning. Okay? So that's basically the blues progression, and you need to know the A7, the D7, and the C7, and learn the structure. If you go now and put on Chuck Berry's Johnny B. Good, or Roll Over Beethoven, or any number of blues tunes, you'll hear the same exact progression. Stevie Ray Vaughan's Pride and Joy. It goes on and on and on. You'll hear it's the same exact progression. There's shuffles, there's playing it slowly, playing it fast, there's all kinds of different variations of it, but at the end of the day, it's the same progression. Those same 3 chords, in different keys, but those same 3 chords make up the blues progression. So get that down, and here I'm going to show you the chord chart for today's lesson coming up right now.